But I know Singaporeans are not just concerned about the macro overall numbers, but also at the micro individual level. They are concerned about fair treatment. That Singaporeans are being considered fairly for jobs, for promotions, or when it comes time for retrenchments. There's no comfort in knowing that the total numbers are not too many if personally we feel we have been discriminated against at the workplace, or that the EP holder working beside us somehow has an inside track because of old school ties or some other personal connections. And that is why we have TAFET, the Tripartite Alliance for Fair and Progressive Employment Practices, where Singaporeans who feel unfairly treated can seek redress. We also have the Fair Consideration Framework, which we are tightening further, as you've heard. And we are working with the unions to make sure any retrenchments are done fairly, and no company is retrenching a Singaporean only to fill the same post with a foreigner without very good justification. The government takes this issue of fairness very seriously. In evaluating EP and S-Pass applications, we take into account whether the employer has kept up support of local PMETs in their employment and has been responsive to government efforts to help them recruit and train more Singaporean PMETs. Or conversely, whether the employer has discriminated against qualified Singaporeans. This has always been the government policy, but we particularly want to emphasize these considerations now, in these uncertain times, to remind all employers to play their part in building up their Singaporean workforce, the Singaporean core. One specific red flag is when we see a company that has an over-concentration of a single foreign nationality in its ranks, especially when compared to other companies in the same sector. This concentration, if it is unchecked, can cause social resentment and workplace problems. It makes it harder for the company to blend into and be accepted by our multiracial society. They stick out, is a lump unable to be digested, integrated. It suggests that a company has not really taken root in Singapore. It can cause problems within the company too, because employees of other nationalities, Singaporeans or others, may find it harder to fit in, to take pride in their work, and see a future for themselves in the firm. Therefore, when that happens, we ask the firm to please relook at their hiring practices. Most companies are responsive and work with us in good faith. In fact, many global companies understand that the diverse workforce is to their advantage and have explicit HR policies for this. The issue of concentration can easily be played up, and we know that there are some people who are stirring this up. For example, a Facebook page posted a Wi-Fi of DBS CEO Piyush Gupta with a room full of Indian employees last September. It was captioned, "Eyesight Test. Find a Singaporean or Chinese in this DBS photo." The picture resurfaced recently and went viral, which just shows that during tough times, this subject is more neuralgic. Last September was a different world. Many people took offense and got worked up and berated DBS, flamed them. But it was fake news. Why? That picture was taken in India, where DBS had opened a new office, not in Singapore. The person who put up the post surely knew this, yet he irresponsibly misused the Wi-Fi to insinuate that DBS in Singapore was not being fair to Singaporeans, and damage was done. The government will always be on the side of Singaporeans. What is the point of creating jobs for foreigners if it doesn't benefit Singaporeans? Why would we want to do that? Ultimately, our aim is to grow the economy, create good jobs for Singaporeans, and raise our standards of living. Foreign workers and work pass holders help us to achieve this. By being open to talent from all over the world, we create more opportunities for ourselves. Singapore has succeeded by being an international hub, tapping talents worldwide and serving a global market. So even as we adjust our work pass policies, we must be careful not to give the wrong impression that we are now closing up and no longer welcoming foreigners. Such a reputation would do us great harm. And we have to watch this because we are being watched. The Financial Times had an article just a couple of days ago to say, Singapore, the mood is changing, we're turning inwards. There have been articles in the South China Morning Post a few months ago. There are articles circulating on the internet, the grapevine buzzes. And we have to do the right thing for ourselves, but we must also avoid sending the wrong signals to others. It may surprise you, but even in this depressed economic climate, when some companies are consolidating and laying off workers, many investment projects want to come to Singapore. In fact, this year, EDB's pipeline is higher than the pipeline was last year. And there's a reason for this. All over Asia and in the world, societies are under stress and politics is in flux. In places where investors already have regional headquarters and projects, they are rethinking the merits of their locations and looking for alternatives. Because the situation changes. You set up your headquarters there, there's some political shift, you look at the sky, it doesn't look the same as before. You start thinking, where can I go? Investors starting new projects are also anxiously scanning the globe, searching for the right place where they can safely make a commitment now. Companies are seeking a safe harbor, where the politics is stable, there's rule of law, the people are hardworking and united, and where the country will come through the pandemic safely and have a bright future. We take no joy in the troubles in the world. But it is a fact that in a troubled world, Singapore is one of the few trusted countries that stands out. And we must guard that reputation zealously. Indeed, EDB and MAS tell me that many companies have expressed interest in coming to Singapore. Some projects you would have heard about. For example, Hyundai Motor has just announced plans to set up a major facility here to undertake R&D and develop future mobility technologies. But there are others yet that have not been announced or are still under wraps, are being discussed, and are hopefully on the way. I can't tell you these confidential discussions, but I can give you a small peek. For example, a pharmaceutical company is planning to build a facility in Singapore to manufacture vaccines. Another company specializing in pandemic risk insurance wants to set up shop here. These are opportunities which are directly coming out of the crisis. We want vaccine plants here so that we can get access to vaccines when they are available. We want to build up our financial sector, and pandemic risk insurance is now something on people's minds, and they're looking for a safe place where they can put their insurance company. And Singapore is in the running. Do we want to turn them away? There are other companies which are coming to Singapore or looking seriously at coming to Singapore. Several Fortune 500 firms are considering moving their regional HQs here because of political uncertainties elsewhere. Major financial institutions want to grow their operations in Singapore too. And these include IT and operations, backroom operations. And we look at them, they are good projects. We will study them. We are conscious that IT is one of the areas where we worry about an over-concentration of foreign work pass holders. But when you get a good project like this, an IT center for a major foreign bank, major global bank, wanting to come to Singapore and therefore going to recruit a portion of Singaporean IT professionals and other BPs, other management staff. Should we say no? They see good prospects in Singapore. They see us as a stable base to work from. We want to talk to them to see how they can fit in here in Singapore to create good jobs for Singaporeans. But for them to come here, they must feel welcome and be allowed to bring in the talent that they need. Because we don't have the full complement of specialist engineers and other expertise for all these types of work yet. And also regional and global headquarters, by design, need to draw talent from around the world and to be run by international teams. That's the nature of a regional and global headquarters. The companies which have headquarters run by all one nationality, the Japanese used to be like that. They did not thrive. The American companies, which had headquarters with people from all continents, they did well. They could adapt, they had the feel of different markets, they could fit into different cultures. And if we want good companies to come to Singapore, we must be prepared to have them come and to bring to Singapore that constellation of talent to be able to operate out of Singapore and manage activities and locations all over the world. They will employ Singaporeans too, but they cannot be staffed by Singaporeans alone. Once these companies establish themselves here, more Singaporeans will be able to take advantage of the opportunities they create, pick up their skills and knowledge, and rise up the ranks. This is how we've always done it. For example, pharmaceutical companies began to invest in Singapore 20 to 30 years ago. They started by building manufacturing plants. Later on, as these facilities grew, some of the pharma companies set up regional HQs and research labs. Like GlaxoSmithKline, GSK. GSK's site director is Lim Hock Heng, Singaporean. He joined GSK in 1992, nearly 30 years ago, as a production engineer, picked up skills and knowledge from his foreign colleagues, and rose up the ranks. Today, Hock Heng runs most of the Singapore sites, which manufacture key GSK products for the whole world. In other words, it is a drug which is belongs to GSK, and Singapore is the one place in the world they are making it and exporting it around the globe. Another example is from the financial services. In the late 1980s, Singapore was recovering from a major recession and trying hard to grow our financial center. Several global banks came to Singapore, including Citibank. They had no shortage of staff to choose from with tens of thousands of employees globally. But they hired Singaporeans, including Susan Quick, who had a poly diploma in computer science. They saw her potential, groomed her, rotated her through several operations and technology roles here and in the region. And today, Susan oversees ops and technology for Citibank in Hong Kong. There are many more Singaporeans in senior positions in semiconductors, oil and gas, and IT. If we had not welcomed these companies in the past and encouraged them to bring in global talent, Hock Heng, Susan, and others would have been deprived of these opportunities. Would we have been better off? But it's not just global companies that need foreign manpower. Local companies also need global talent to grow and develop. Our SMEs need skills, knowledge, and expertise that they may not have in Singapore. For example, to develop an external wing and to move up the value chain. And by doing so, they too create good new jobs for Singaporeans, besides promoting entrepreneurship and making it easier and more attractive to start companies in Singapore. So the economic benefits of our foreign worker policies are very clear, but there's a more fundamental question which we have to ask ourselves, and that is, what sort of society, what sort of people do we want to be? We've always been a people open to the world, welcoming others who can add value to our society and bring the best out of us. This is our history and our ethos, from our beginnings as an open port and an immigrant nation. The bicentennial last year reminded us of that. This generosity of spirit gives our society and economy vitality and resilience. It's made Singapore the exceptional cosmopolitan city that we are today, plugged into the global economy and making a living by making ourselves valuable to the world. We may be under stress now, but we cannot afford to turn inwards. We will adjust our policies to safeguard Singaporean jobs, but let us show confidence that Singaporeans can hold our own in the world.